Let's go. Good afternoon. It is 4:01 on the East Coast, 1:01 on the West Coast, and here in Western Colorado Mountain Time, it is 2:01 p.m. We're 1 minute late. We're coming in hot off of a sound check, playing later tonight. But you have tuned in to Slay Security Plus. Listen, if this is your first time here, welcome to the party, pal. My name is Jesse J, aka the Cosmic Cowboy. And over the next hour or so, give or take, me, you, Kenneth Lowy, Operation Tech Takeover, and many others that are going to join us in chat are going to spend some time crushing Security Plus questions. We're going to look at some practice questions, some practice test questions, some quiz questions. We'll look at some performance-based questions, talk test strategy, and help you navigate your way to the Security Plus exam. Maybe it's your very first certification as you're trying to quote-unquote break in. Maybe you're just your employer wants you to get a certification, some kind of DoD requirement. Whatever it is, it typically is that entry-level certification that gets you fired up and can be a filter for hiring managers. Is it end-all, be-all? No, but for a lot of people, it is that very first certification they get. And for many of you in chat, like Sleepy Queen, Muhammad Wali, Momim, and others, you maybe already have your Security Plus, and you're just here for the community, here for your foundational cybersecurity re-ups, right? We got to re-up that knowledge. Hope everyone's doing good this Saturday. Let me know how you're doing in chat. I need a slug of this coffee. This is Black Rifle Coffee's Tacti-Squatch. I see some people saying happy birthday in chat. My birthday is next week. At some point, I must have clicked something wrong when I set up my social media account, which I never check. And it says my birthday is today when actually my birthday is on next week. Austin Weaver coming in hot saying he's taking his Security Plus, or they are taking their Security Plus on Monday. I have faith in you. With that being said, let's get into it. I'm going to pay the bills, thank our session sponsor. While we do that, drop in chat how you're doing, where you're at in your certification journey. There may be one of us, there may be two of us on today, there may be 50 or 60 to 1,000. Who knows? But we come at it, we give our best, helping along the way, whether there's one person watching or there's 5 million people watching. So let's get right into it so we can help Austin Weaver maybe navigate some questions, what to look for. I'll pull up some Professor Messer stuff as well so that we can do that. And in the meantime, let's thank our session sponsor. Hey, listen, do zero-day exploits and supply chain attacks keep you up at night? Worry no more and harden your security with ThreatLocker. Worldwide companies trust ThreatLocker to secure their data and keep their business operations moving. ThreatLocker takes a deny-by-default approach to cybersecurity, and they provide a full audit of every action allowed or blocked for risk management and compliance. Their operation and onboarding is fully supported by their US-based cyber hero support team. Get a free 30-day trial and see how ThreatLocker can help prevent ransomware and ensure compliance. Head on over to threatlocker.com. Let's get ready to rumble. Let's get ready to rumble. In one corner, we've got a performance-based question. In the other corner, we've got Austin Weaver preparing to take his Security Plus exam. I want to give people, let's see, let me know. Nope, don't like that. Don't like that. Don't like that. I guess we'll do this one. Can I move myself? Nope. Okay, let's get into it. All right, if you've been around the cybersecurity field or you've taken your exam or you're prepping for your Security Plus exam, the Security Plus typically is it's always a maximum of 90 questions. You can find the Security Plus study guide by navigating to CompTIA's website and downloading it for yourself. And it goes through all of the domains so you can study exactly what you need to for the exam. But we're going to start off with up to 90 questions. And out of those 90 questions, the first one, up to maybe 6 of them, sometimes 7, I think it's up to 6 max. The first up to 6, so maybe 1, maybe 6 questions are going to be what's called performance-based questions. This is more of a hands-on practical approach to the Security Plus, where the rest of the questions are going to be your multiple choice, where you get a scenario and choose the best 1 or 2 answers. Something to note about performance-based questions, Austin Weaver, and all the questions in the exam is that you do get partial credit. So let's say you get through your performance-based question and maybe you answered 4 out of the 6 components correctly, well, you're going to get points for those 4. You're not going to miss the entire question. You'll actually get some points for those 4 components that you answered correctly. And you won't lose points. You just won't get the points for the answers that you either left blank or missed or got incorrectly on your exam. Hence why it is really, really crucial to make sure that you are answering every single question, no matter if you get to the time starts running down and you just got to rip what you think is the best answer. Sometimes the best answer may be the winning answer. We'll get into the structure of multiple choice questions. But what we're going to do here is we're going to work through this PBQ. This is from the CompTIA Cert Master package. So Austin, this is what a performance-based question looks like. Not all of them are going to look like this. Some are going to be drag and drop. So this is a drag and drop type question with a drop-down selector and some checkboxes. Some of the performance-based questions might be all fill in the blank. Some of them are going to have to do with all the various components of the Security Plus, right? So we're looking at confidentiality, availability, and integrity, right? Or confidentiality, integrity, and availability, the 3 pillars that define cybersecurity, which is really important that you address every question with that in the back of your mind. This question has to do with, it looks like, different solutions, different infrastructure solutions for an enterprise. It looks like we're dealing with either a data center infrastructure or a cloud infrastructure. When you get to your PBQs, well, let's rewind a little bit. There is no right or wrong way to take the Security Plus. You can do all your PBQs first and then go on to the multiple choice if you would like. I highly, highly recommend that unless you see a PBQ and you can answer it off the rip within a few seconds, most people recommend that you do the multiple choice first because you can skip them, right? The test is linear. You just hit next, 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 next. Get to your multiple choice questions, answer those all the way till you're done, and then come back for the performance-based questions. This reason is twofold. Yes, the performance-based questions are worth a little bit more because there's more components to them than a single multiple choice. They also take a lot longer. Sometimes just reading the scenario in and of itself can take you a minute. Remember, you only have around a minute per question, give or take. Now, some of the multiple choice questions you're going to be answering right off the rip. You're going to look at the question, you're going to read it, you're going to see the answers, you're like, oh, well, this is easy. There's going to be some multiple questions, and this is just how the exam goes, where the multiple choice questions are going to stretch you just a little bit. You're going to have to read the question maybe twice to see what they're asking. Maybe it's a little bit longer of a paragraph. And then you're going to have to go through the process of elimination. You're going to have to tell yourself, well, which answer really best fits what CompTIA is asking me here in this question? And so you don't want to miss out on all those points the multiple choice is going to give you. Another reason, and this is probably, in my opinion, one of the most important reasons to do the performance-based questions last, is that by doing the multiple choice questions first, you're going to get all of your cybersecurity juices flowing in your head. You're going to get all your cybersecurity mojo rocking and rolling so that when you roll into the performance-based questions, it's not like you just woke up in the morning and haven't had any coffee. Your brain is going to be cooking. You're going to have answered questions on all the different domains, all the different areas that you've been studying for. And sometimes there may be components in a multiple choice question that will actually answer a performance-based question. So it's really key that you have your brain kind of going, because the performance-based questions can be a little sticky and they can be sometimes really simple. Sometimes they're going to be a little bit more complex. But if you take the time and you knock out all those multiple choice ones first, you'll have those cybersecurity juices, that mojo flowing, and you can go in and slay it that way. That all being said, let's look at our multiple choice, okay? And one of the first things I like to do when I sit down and look at a PBQ is I want to see all of the different components of the question that I can interact with, right? Because it's not inherently obvious everything that you're going to be able to click on or interact with. This one, oh, okay, cool. Looks like I have a drag and drop feature. Okay, good to know. If I click on site B, site A, doesn't really do anything. Okay, doesn't matter. If I drop this down, okay, let's be able to drop down some check boxes. Sure enough, based on the scenario, use the benefit drawback appropriate solution, then select the drop down selector for recommending the best solution in the check boxes for the requirements met by the solution. I have noticed that these Cert Master ones tend to be a little bit more complex and a little bit more wordy than the ones that you're going to see when you sit down for your test. But what we're going for is not necessarily getting them correct. It is to help ease that fear of what a performance-based question looks and feels like. They'll always start with a scenario. This one's pretty hefty. And then from that scenario, you're going to have to make the best choice and answer the question. Let's get started. A mechanical contractor's existing infrastructure cannot handle capacity demands, and its design hinders its ability to scale in response to the company's rapid growth. Recently, performance issues with the computer-aided design, or CAD, and accounting servers severely impacted staff productivity, and leadership has asked you to identify potential solutions to avoid this problem in the future. The company hired a managed service provider, or MSP, to handle the redesign of the infrastructure. The MSP recommended that part of the infrastructure investment involve using multiple technologies. Additionally, it should have power redundancy and a more resilient backup capability. So there's that availability part in the CIA triad. The MSP needs to explain the benefits of their recommendations to the client and which solution to choose. Review the following two potential solutions and identify the strengths and weaknesses of each one. The client noted they will spend $250,000 if the solution fits the company's needs. Another service the MSP provides is periodic testing of the chosen solutions. Here are some considerations. Determine the best functions for each solution, show the benefits and drawbacks of each solution, and provide a recommendation on the best solution for the client. Okay, we're ready to rock. Let me get another slug of coffee. Been going all day. I like it. Wouldn't have it any other way. So solution one is a data center infrastructure on premises. Site A, it looks like they're running a Windows CAD server to one backup, and they're running the Windows accounting server to another backup. So we have two different servers, each with their own backups. Solution two is a cloud infrastructure to which we have a load balancer, Site A and Site B, both running the Azure CAD and accounting software on both of these cloud solutions. Again, each with their own resilient backups and a load balancer that can help divvy out those requests and can help keep the operations moving and not getting bottlenecked or jammed up. Okay, looks like there's a line here that divides the two. So in the top one, we've got the data center infrastructure. Well, let's look at our two benefits and our two drawbacks. I think one of the benefits is a less complex infrastructure. What do you guys think? What do you think in chat from our folks in chat? What do you think is the best answer for the second benefit of the data center on premises? More resilient operations, multi-vendor infrastructure, which doesn't look like that's true, server redundancy, price variations, single vendor infrastructure, more complex infrastructure, or on-site backup. Hey, Coding Crypto Fitness, welcome back to the party. Good to see you. Coding Crypto says, benefit for Site A, less complex infrastructure. I agree. What else? We need another benefit. I think we could say a single vendor infrastructure, right? There's not two here, whereas this one, oh, this is a single. I think solution two, cloud infrastructure, we might have server redundancy. Here we do not have server redundancy, right? On the on-prem, we just have a CAD server and the Windows accounting server. So that's a single server. Yeah, I agree. Solution two, more resilient operations, which is true, right? If for some reason this goes down, let's say this one server goes down, well, then that load balancer can send it to the other, and it's running both the CAD and the accounting server. One of the, I think, drawbacks is going to be price variations. One of the benefits to your on-site data infrastructure is that you've got on-site backups. They're yours. They're in-house. You got to manage the RAIDs. You got to manage the drive space and everything, but you're going to have a better time because they'll be on-prem. Oh, look, they're not, sorry, my brain read Azure for both. It looks like we do have multi-vendor infrastructure here. So oh, I know what we could do. Here we go. Let's try this. Let's say the cloud drawback would be hey, Tech Ricky, would be more complex. I agree. So I'm actually going to go here. We've got the multi-vendor infrastructure. Price variations. Would multi-vendor fall under would fall under more complex? It could, or it could fall under price variations. We just know there's probably a price variation here with the okay. Single vendor infrastructure would be a drawback for your on-prem. What about something like this? The drawback here is server redundancy. We don't have it. Here we've got more resilient operations, but also a more complex infrastructure. What do we think? That looks like it could fit. And I have not, sometimes the PBQs I go through and do these ahead of time so I can teach properly. But this one I'm doing off the rip with you, like I'm sitting down for the test. Okay, I'm gonna go with this so that we can get into the practice questions and get more of those. Really gonna have more of those on the test anyways, especially if Austin is still here in chat. Austin, let us know if you're still here. Did I get that name right? Yeah, Austin Weaver, let us know if you're still here. Then the best solution, do we think it's cloud infrastructure or data center infrastructure? Do we have to have multiple vendors? Does it say? Austin Weaver says the on-prem data center because it's more cost conscious. What does the scenario tell us again? The company hired blah, blah, blah. The MSP recommended. Additionally, it should have power redundancy and a more resilient backup capability. That's all we get. Solution 1 does not have any redundancy, right? And I think that's the key thing, in my opinion, is that I agree with Sleepy Queen in that we don't have any redundancy here, which it looks like is a requirement. Additionally, it should have power redundancy and more resilient backup. So look at it this way. Site A is running. Let's say the CAD server goes down. Well, if the CAD server goes down, then all you can't do the job. You have the accounting, right? And only that one's being backed up. Whereas this one, we have both the Azure and AWS running the environment, both redundant. So if site A goes down, well, boom, the load balancer is going to switch over, send all that traffic to site B, which is also running the CAD and the accounting server. So when it comes to availability of both in transit, real time, and then having, that data at rest or stored, we also have these redundant backups. I'm going to go with cloud infrastructure. Multiple vendors, power redundancy, and resilient backups. Those are the requirements met. I don't think it's cost conscious, but again, we do know that cloud is scalable. We could suggest to them, if I'm the consultant coming in, I'm going to suggest the cloud infrastructure because we do get this redundancy. I mean, that answers it for me right there. And unless this question is causing me to overthink and it's a bad question, we get it wrong because but this one does provide us with the redundancy. I think that looks good. Let's send it and see how many we get. Where does it mention power redundancy? In this scenario. Additionally, it should have power redundancy and a more resilient backup capability. And we can kind of just determine that we're going to have power redundancy because we're using multiple vendors. AWS probably isn't sharing the same power where the Azure servers are, the server farm for the Azure cloud environment. Let's say AWS goes down. Well, then heck, we still have the load balancer, which is going to send that traffic to the Azure environment. So that gives us our power redundancy. I feel like we do get more resilient backups as they're being, it looks like from this diagram, how would we say that? Cross backed up. Site B is going to backup A, and site A is also being backed up to backup B. I'm going to send it here, and let's see what we got. We could be way off, right? But this is more than anything to give those folks who have never looked at a performance-based question kind of an idea of what they look like coming into the exam. Let's send it. 11 out of 13. I'll take it. What is that as a percentage? I know it's not the best in the world, but let's see what it is. What are you math folks? Tell me. I don't know off the top of my head. 11. Hey, that's 84%. So that's a passing PBQ. Perfect. I'll take it. Let's see what we got wrong. We chose correctly on cloud infrastructure at the end of the day. We were correct in multiple vendors, the power redundancy, the resilient backups, but it's not cost conscious. Now, this is where I'm confused. Should these have been flip-flopped then? Server redundancy, which are these? So let's see what the more is here. For solution 1, the data center infrastructure has a much simpler architecture. It has one site with 2 servers running the same vendor technology. It has on-site backup for data recovery. However, everything goes down if the power goes out at that location. It is a common real-world setup as it is cost-effective. Yeah, either way, I think the benefit is on-site backup, so we are right there. I think the server redundancy. For solution 2, the cloud infrastructure has more complex architecture, may require planning more. Additionally, it has backup solution where the backups are off-site. It helps prevent any on-site from going down, causing the entire system to be offline. It is not cost-effective, but ideal for mission-critical attacks. Cool. So I see what Sleepy Queen is saying on this makes no sense. The part that doesn't make sense is how these could be wrong then that would make something down here wrong. I wonder if we, just for poops and giggles, if we did single vendor, less complex. Okay. So we were right. I see what they're saying. Okay. Here we go. Okay. Less complex infrastructure, but a single vendor infrastructure. Server redundancy, they're saying is the benefit, as we do have two servers running. So I guess that's what they're saying is the redundant part, but then the drawback is on-site backups. We need a more resilient backup solution in case something goes down. Kind of a wonky PBQ, but at least you get a sense of what they look like. Let's jump back into our practice questions where we left off last week, which was lesson 2 of comparing threat types. So far, we're at 100%. We've answered 6 of 21 questions. Let's roll. Hey, Austin, what do you have for practice questions? What are you using right now for your practice test questions? Are you using Professor Messer? Are you using the Dion method? Let us know in chat. I swear by the Professor Messer questions. I do think that they are the closest. People are texting me happy birthday. It's funny. Something's wrong on Facebook. My birthday is not till next week. That's funny. I'll be 25 again. At least I feel 25. Dion for practice questions, but I don't have Professor Messer's. Using Professor Messer's videos, excellent. Hey Austin, what are you getting on the Dion practice tests? If you wouldn't mind telling us. I find, and this is no diss to Jason Dion, I've said some spicy things about his training methods in the past. I do find that the practice questions are by far more wordy and more complex than the actual exam, and this does not help. It really doesn't help you study. It actually creates this, I'm not going to get good enough because they're significantly harder, right? They put a little bit more mumbo jumbo. I've also seen some vendor specific questions in the exam, which you will not see on a CompTIA test, which is kind of nice. I really think the Professor Messer questions are the closest. If you'd like a copy of those, and I owe some other viewers some copies too. We try and buy some for people. Yeah, I bet if you took some Messer test, you're going to crush them. If you're averaging 80 on the Dion's, Coding Crypto Fitness 100% agrees with me. They are so wordy, and some of his questions also weren't in the learning material. That was the issue I had, is I started finding questions that weren't in the material. When that happens, I immediately write it off and find a different solution. Austin, find me on LinkedIn, and let's get you those Professor Messer questions. I'll buy some, or the Slay Security Plus, we will buy some and send them to you today before I go sound check I'm playing 2 back-to-back shows, doing some volunteer work, and then I'm playing at the warehouse for an after party. So playing 2 concerts tonight, but before I leave to go clock in for that, find me on LinkedIn or connect with me somehow, maybe on Discord, and I'll get you those Professor Messer exam questions. Maybe I can find you, Austin Weaver. Absolutely, brother. All right, let's get into the question. A large multimedia company is experiencing a distributed denial of service or DDoS attack that has led the company's platform to become unresponsive. Customers are submitting tickets and complaining they can no longer access the platform and cannot complete their work. What best describes what the company is going through? A, service disruption, B, data exfiltration, C, disinformation, or D, insider threat? Drop what you think is the best answer in chat. So after you read the question, sometimes 1 or 2 times, make sure you fully understand what the question is asking you. Then one of the things you want to do, Austin or whoever else is practicing for their exam, is go through and do a quick process of elimination. What are right away, off the rip, out the gate, which ones are incorrect answers? Well, we see a denial of service, a DDoS attack, and that is affecting the availability pillar of the CIA triad. Well, it's a denial of service, which means service is not working. We don't see anything about data going anywhere. In fact, data cannot go anywhere because there is no service. This company cannot, the company's platform is unresponsive. Disinformation. Now, while there could be disinformation that is leading to some kind of attack, maybe there was something put out there that is causing a hacking group to attack them because they were disinformed. That's not really what we're talking about here. Insider threat does not fit, so we can take that one off, leaving us with A, service disruption. Correct. Service disruption prevents an organization from working as it usually does. This service disruption could involve an attack on its website, such as a denial of service attack, or using malware to block access to servers and employee workstations. B is incorrect because data exfiltration refers to an attack where actors transfers a copy of some valuable information from a computer network without authorization. Disinformation refers to falsifying trusted resource, such as changing a website's content, manipulating search engine to inject fake sites, or using bots to post false information on social media sites. Insider threat is somebody within the company who intentionally or unintentionally increases risk or takes company data business outside the organization's security controls. And I think any of the answers were, because this says best, which leads me to believe that there is an okay choice and the best choice for this question. I think if you selected insider threat, you might get partial credit because an insider threat it wouldn't be distributed, but through their actions, they could unintentionally cause a DDoS somehow, maybe. Moving on. A large multinational software company experienced a ransomware attack. After running a forensic audit and recovering data from backups, the company has found that it was an organized, illicit, non-political group that attempted to extort it. What describes the attack that occurred to the company? A, insider threat, B, hacktivism, C, service disruption, or D, cybercrime? Coding Crypto is going with D. Sleepy Queen is going with B as in boy. See a combination of B and D, hacktivism and service disruption. Organized, illicit. So something to think about with this question. A multinational software company experienced a ransomware attack. Something that all of these groups, one of them actually is known for ransomware attacks, whereas the other ones are not. Insider threats typically don't do ransomware attacks. We're not looking at a service disruption, although it is a service disruption. But what describes the attack? Something that stands out to me is this says non-political, organized, and there's a ransomware attack. Hacktivism, Operation Tech Takeover, as they say, they're leaning between B and D, but they're leaning toward B. Let's help clarify. Hacktivism typically takes place, not always, right? This isn't a blanket panacea rule. Hacktivism, a lot of times, is going to be some kind of political stance, either against or for something. And typically, hacktivists aren't known for doing ransomware attacks. They're known for defacing websites, maybe DDoSing a site that they don't like because they don't like what that company stands for. Typically, hacktivists are going to be something that is philosophical, religious, or political, which leads me to not go with hacktivists. I like cybercrime, which kind of covers all of it, but remember that cyber criminals are typically in for the ransomware and to get the money or the data, or to get the money. Unless you're North Korea, your state-sponsored actors are going to be doing espionage. They're not in it for money. You're welcome. You're welcome, little bro. I got you. Right? And so cyber criminals are known for trying to get that money. It's all about the cash, baby. I'm going to send it on cybercrime, knowing that I guess it could be a service disruption. That's not what we're going for here, I don't think. I think they're asking us what kind of, this is what threat types. I think we're experiencing cybercrime. There we go. Cybercrime is the overarching term for the organized criminal activity occurring online. Hacktivists might attempt to use data exfiltration to obtain and release information to the public, or perform disruption attacks, or deface websites to spread disinformation. So there we go. And when we think of service disruption, think of a distributed denial of service attack, or something that is a disruption that can involve attack on the website to block access, to overwhelm the servers, to bring them down. Not necessarily something like ransomware, which would completely stop the... I mean, if you did a ransomware attack on a website, you potentially, the website could be up, but the people working would have no access to their files. Tech Ricky coming in hot. Most questions dealing with hacktivism usually specify something along the line of attackers are political or the victims were political. I tend to agree. Next question. An employee unknowingly clicked on a malicious attachment but did not notice any issues right away and assumed nothing happened. A short while later, the Security Operations Center received a notification of a virus attempting to access an IP address outside the company. What is the malicious attachment most likely doing? Attempting to disable a remote connection? B, attempting to create a local connection? C, attempting to disable a local connection, or D, attempting to create a remote connection? And if it helps, here's the answer right here. This one's pretty straightforward. I'm going with what everybody says in class, which is answer D, attempting to create that remote connection. It says right here to access, so attempting to create a connection to an IP address outside of the company. Absolutely, Coding Crypto. You can ask a question. I think we're going to answer it. We're going to go with D, attempting to create a remote connection. It says access to enable. We're not attempting to disable a remote connection. Anything that has to do with local is going to be incorrect because it says right here outside the question. So we know that it's not local. If it said it's trying to access another IP address within the company, that would be a local connection. But this is a remote connection. So it's something outside the company, ergo remote, right? There we go. Correct. The software in the scenario is attempting to make a remote connection to download more malicious software, exfiltrate data, or allow the device to become part of a botnet. Ooh, zombies. A set of hosts infected by a control program or bots that enable attackers to exploit the hosts or mount attacks. Coding Crypto, what's your question? The curiosity is killing me. Moving on. An accounts payable clerk receives a company-wide email requesting them to click on the link within the email to update their personal information in the human resources portal. At first glance, the email appears to be sent from a legitimate company address. Before giving the information over, what should the clerk protect against? A, typo squatting. B, coercion. C, phishing. Or D, consensus technique. What is the difference between arbitrary file inclusion and remote file inclusion? So RFI attacks or an AFI attack, I take it we're talking pen testing or just hacking in general. When I think of a remote file inclusion, I'm thinking something that now I need to do more. I'm not sure what an arbitrary file inclusion is. Maybe an arbitrary typically to me just means something that doesn't go along with everything else. We'll look into it. A remote file inclusion has to do when a unprotected, when we have input fields or data that's not being sanitized, and we can include a file into an input form somewhere to open a shell or something. Let's ask the robot. Did I spell that right? Arbitrary file load versus if a web application with a client-side facing upload capability isn't designed with stringent enough content verification policies, it can be easy target for arbitrary upload, also referred to as unrestricted file upload attacks. Okay. To me, looks like they typically affect WordPress systems. File, for example, arbitrary file upload occurs when a file uploaded by a user does not have its file extension checked properly. This in turn could allow a PHP file to be uploaded, which could result in a full compromise of the system. Improper handling. I'll have to do some more digging into this. Because to me, an arbitrary file inclusion is very similar to a remote file inclusion. We'll have to look into that a little bit more. That's a great question, but to me, they're very similar. All right, back to our question. The accounts payable clerk receives a company-wide email requesting them to click on a link within the mail email. At first glance, the email appears to be sent from a legitimate company's address. Before giving over the information, what should the clerk protect against? A, typo squatting, B, coercion, C, phishing, or D, consensus technique? Okay. So an arbitrary file inclusion occurs when the attacker can include files already present on the server through a web application. Remote file inclusion occurs when the attacker can include a file hosted on a remote server, often containing malicious code. Okay, you're right. File inclusion would already be locally on the server. Remote code, remote would be obviously not remote. That makes sense. Tackle. Gotcha. Okay. That helps. Well, something to keep, I think a lot of people, when they read this question, the first thing they might think is they jump immediately to typo squatting because we see a link within the mail. We don't see anything that this question is saying that they navigated to the site and it looks different than they were expecting. They just said that the email appears to be sent from a legitimate company address. Well, this happens all the time because threat actors can spoof where it looks like the emails are coming from. So I don't believe it's typo squatting. We don't see anything that they're being forced to. There's no coercion going on. Remember, the consensus technique is something that happens when a phishing or some kind of social engineering attack is performed in a way that would lead the victim to feel that if they did not respond, it would be out of the normal, or they're the ones that are left out. Well, everyone's doing it. Sometimes you'll get a message, a phishing message, where it has a bunch of fake forwards, so it looks like it's being forwarded, and then you're getting it. You're like, and it's like, Jane from accounting needs you to click on this DocuSign, and it's like, hey, just get Jesse, hey, just get so-and-so to click on it, right? That's consensus. The consensus is that this is okay, and it would be weird if you didn't do it. This is a classic example of phishing. Let's send it. Correct. Next question. A large multimedia company is in the process of creating a new marketing campaign for a soon-to-be-released movie. However, before releasing the campaign, the company noticed an increase in fake accounts, mimicking it with similar looking campaign. What could the company do to mitigate this issue? A, check for typo squatting. B, check for brand impersonation. C, check for coercion. Or D, check for consensus technique. Austin Weaver sees it right away. Look for brand impersonation. Right. We don't see typo squatting where a threat actor registers a domain with a website name that looks very similar to something else, but actually goes to a malicious website. Google versus Goggle, something like that. That's just an example. Although companies like Google, when you're really big, you go through and you register. I'm sure if you typed in Goggle, it would send you to Google because they probably have that redirected and registered that domain. So in this case, Mohammed Wali, we're not looking for typo squatting. And the reason is because we don't see anything with navigating to a domain or a website. We don't see anything in the question that leads us to believe. However, before releasing the campaign, the company noticed an increase in fake accounts, looking like it, mimicking it, copying it, right? With a similar looking campaign. We don't see anything that has to do with DNS poisoning or anything that has to do with registering a domain with a website that is close to the original. So I'm actually not going with typo squatting. There's nothing in this question that lead us to believe that there's coercion going on. The consensus technique is not being used here. I think I agree with Coding Crypto Fitness, Sleepy Queen, that we are looking for brand impersonation. Let's send it. Remember that typo squatting means the threat actor registers a domain name very similar to the real one, hoping that users will not notice the difference and assume they are browsing a trusted site. A construction company that receives several emails with attachments from its vendors ran into an issue with one of the emails it received. A malicious actor created an email with an attachment that appeared to be from a known vendor. As a result, the malicious actor tricked an employee into clicking on that attachment. How did the malicious actor convince the employee to click on that attachment? A, the actor used an email lure. B, the actor used a physical lure. C, the actor offered to help improve employee workflow. Or D, the actor exploited an outdated email encryption protocol. Just got your message, Austin Weaver. I sent you a connect from my personal LinkedIn. Right. They use an email lure. They didn't use a USB or a hard drive or something like that. No, we're not seeing that. We don't know if the actor helped to improve employee workflow. So we're gonna go with A, an email lure. There we go. Sending out an email with an attachment with similar looking wording as a company would expect it is an excellent way to get people to click on them accidentally. Adding additional content to the email can help add legitimacy to the malicious attachment. A physical lure may involve a phone call, drop thumb drive, or in-person social engineering. Malicious attachments typically do not improve an employee's workflow and will likely cause the opposite. This would cause a disruption to the employee's workflow. And attackers exploiting outdated email encryption protocols aim to intercept emails, unlike deceiving an employee into clicking on a malicious attachment through social engineering. This is going to be our final question for today's study session. A project manager's assistant received an email requesting information for an ongoing project. The email attempted to convince the assistant that the project would fail to complete on time if they did not receive the information. Before giving the information over, what should the assistant protect against? A, urgency, B, typo squatting, C, consensus technique, or D, brand impersonation? Cody Crypto thinks A, urgency. Again, we don't see anything about navigating to a domain that you were expecting one thing and got another. Some typo squatting. To me, as I read this question, to convince the assistant that the project would fail, listen, if you don't give me that information, we don't have time. Time is running out. Time is running out. It's so urgent that you get me this information. I think that leaves us with one answer and only one answer, and that is A. Boom, urgency, let's send it. Yep. Pretty straightforward. We kind of went over why the other ones don't make sense. It's so important when you're studying for your exam that you understand why a question is incorrect, not just correct. Let's pop off one more. A managed service provider decided to delay the implementation of new antivirus software for its clients after discovering that the vendor could not patch its software automatically. Why might a company want to avoid software that is unable to update automatically? A, it can save the company money. B, it may not fix newly found vulnerabilities in a timely manner. C, it will require less effort not purchasing software. And D, it will require less effort to update the software. This one's super straightforward. Right, this is a cybersecurity exam, not a financial exam. I'm not going with saving money. We're not asking about effort. It will require less effort to update the software. That doesn't make sense. The main reason here, and I agree with Austin Weaver, Operation Tech Takeover, Sleepy Queen, Coding Crypto Fitness says, these questions have seemed way easier than the past 2 weeks. Yes, we started over at the very beginning from lesson 1, which could be part of it. Also, we still have a few questions to get into it here. So we're almost halfway out of 21. So we have 11 questions. And so out of those 11, they may get a little bit harder next week. We're gonna go with B. I think that's pretty straightforward. It may not fix that. Why would I want to use a company that is not able to patch its software automatically? Well, it might not found newly found vulnerabilities in a timely manner. Boom. We got it, team. Excellent job. Let's pause it for today's study session. We're at 100% correct. We're still doing really well. We've got 8 out of, does it say how many? Now, when we go into it, it'll show us. 14 of 21 questions left. So we've got roughly 7 questions left, and we will slay those next week. I got to run, spend some time with the family before I go in, sound check, and clock in for the next round of playing music. I want to thank everybody that tuned in this afternoon for giving me your time. Hopefully you found value in the Slay Security Plus, and hopefully it helps you study for your Security Plus. Please make sure you send people my way if you want to help them. I'm not a numbers guy, so like I said, I don't care if we have 1 person watching or 1,000 people watching. We're still going to give it our best and make sure that people get some value to help them study. Sleepy Queen, you're very welcome. Cody and Crypto Fitness, always love having you in the party. You're welcome, Austin Weaver. I'll get in touch with you today about those practice questions. You can also find them on our Discord, which I don't think we're supposed to do, but you can find them on our Discord. Little bro, I'll see you on the next one. And I hope I have a good birthday as well. All right, team, I got to run. My name is Jesse J. All of you are Slay Security Plus. Until the next time, like Tech Ricky, Muhammad Dwali, Austin Weaver, Operation Tech Takeover, Coding Crypto Fitness, Sleepy Queen, and others that join us. Have a wonderful